Welcome to Slasher Sunday, Friday the 13th, Part 2, Revisited. I went back, I didn't watch it, but I went back and I looked at my video on this, and it is a shocking 13 minutes long.
Yeah, 13 for Friday the 13th.
I guess so. I don't know what I was going for, but expect this one to be longer.
Yeah.
13 minutes, friggin', it should have been an hour and 13 minutes. I genuinely can't fathom how I covered this film in 13 minutes, but this was old school Sinister cinema, like old school. That was towards the beginning, and I think I was just figuring it out at the time. Yeah. So I'm very, very happy to be revisiting this one for sure, because 13 minutes is abysmal. I don't think I went over like more than 20 minutes for any of them. And we did like an hour and 20 or something for the last movie.
No, we talked about it a long time.
So, and I like this one more, so we'll see. Yeah. And I have quite a bit notes, so let's go. All right, so starting with this. I will say, of all the movies in this franchise, this is the one I like the look of the most. There's something about the like texture of the film, the look of the film, the grain, the everything. There's something about the look of this one. It feels grittier, which is funny because this has got I would assume it has a higher budget than the first one.
Yes.
And they probably hired, a more competent crew because they actually had like a studio with some money behind them at that point. And they were like, but I don't know, there's something about the way Steve Miner shot this, whatever kind of film stock they used or cinematographer or what. But there's just a look to this one that feels almost grindhousey, and I love it. So aesthetically, this is actually my favorite film, looks-wise.
I like the way it looks. I think Jason Takes Manhattan.
That's really glossy.
I know, but I really like the lighting in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, this one is grittier feeling. For sure. I don't know that it feels more gritty than the first one, because I feel like the low budget of the first one really shines through.
Yeah.
But I think that this, considering it does have a higher budget, I think that it follows really well. Like, it does fit and kind of expand on the griminess of the first one.
Yeah. I think it has to do with some characters and locations and whatnot, like the opening shot of this dark street and this kid playing, and the gotta come in, oh ma, and then the boot comes down, and you got kind of this hillbilly Jason in his overalls with his because this one feels like, even though it isn't technically, it feels like a redneck hillbilly inbred in the woods slasher.
Yeah.
Right. And the other Friday the 13th with Jason don't have that feel, because this isn't how he dresses in the other ones. Right. He gets a new outfit, he gets a new mask with the sack head, the overalls with the flannel and the boots, and I don't know, it feels like this redneck thing. And then he has this kind of hobo shelter that he takes refuge in.
This little shelter.
I don't know, but the opening with Alice. So and then of course the characters in this are just a little bit more sexualized.
Yeah.
As opposed, now there is a sexuality to the first one, of course.
Yes.
Right? With Jack and Marcy. Right? You have that. But this film is much hornier.
It is.
And everyone is really, really wanting to get laid hard. Yeah. Sandra, of course, is really, really horny. And then you've got, you've got the stalker dude who's going after the girl. He's really horny.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got you got Mark that's being fawned over
Oh my gosh,
so hard
yeah.
by Vicky.
Yeah.
Right. So and you've got Paul and Jenny, and they go to bang
Definitely are.
in the
Yeah.
hall. So yeah, it's just
Yeah, I mean that's like the natural progression is like, okay, the first one is all about how Mrs. Voorhees is like punishing people who, teens or camp counselors who are engaging in sexual activity, and it's really not that many. So
yeah.
it makes sense that it would like increase in the future films.
It is funny to me that like sexuality of these younger people is what sets Mrs. Voorhees off in 1958, and then once again in 1980 or 80 or 79, depending on her tombstone.
Right.
But this is like, it's really just Jack and Marcy who are sexual.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether or not Alice and Steve Christie are doing anything the night before, I don't know, but they don't die that night. These are the events that we see, and these are the events in which lead up to their death.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like in this one, everyone's banging.
Yeah.
And I feel like Mrs. Voorhees would be set off much more by the events of this film.
Like Mrs. Voorhees would just throw a grenade into camp with this one.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I do find that funny, but I do wonder. So someone had a theory that is fun. It's of course they never conceived of any of these things. In fact, they never planned to even bring Jason into these.
Sure. Yeah.
He's supposed to be dead or a ghost or whatever the hell, who knows. And with this one, they just said screw it. We're bringing him back. Now remember, Jason drowned in 1957. This was 1980, and so you're talking 23 years later. Jason was probably 10. At 8, even, he's in his 30s.
He's in his 30s,
right?
In this.
And then we flash forward 5 years. So the Alice death, which I always, for some reason, I always thought Alice's death was 5 years after. But in this one, it's I caught that. No, this is because he says it. Paul says it in his story. I think it's Paul. He says it in his, or no, maybe it's not Paul. Is it Paul? I can't remember who confirms that Alice disappeared months later after the events of the first film.
I don't remember.
I think it's Paul in his openings, in his campfire tale.
I think so too, but
it could be someone else, but I think it's Paul. But regardless, no, Alice dies very shortly after the events of the first film. Yeah. Then we flash forward 5 years. Now, not to get too off track with that, I will get back to the theory in a moment, but I do have to ask this of you really quick, and I know there's not an answer, but out of curiosity, what is your logic reasoning for how Jason found Alice?
I don't know that I have a good one, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, like, how would he? Like, the idea is he saw, though, what happened. Like, he was alive this whole time in the woods, and Mrs. Voorhees didn't know, somehow, even though she's been out there, which is kind of confusing to me, because it's like, I feel like he would be like, Mom, I'm alive. So I don't really know why he keeps, like, silent and quiet about that, but the assumption is, like, he sees her get killed, and then that's what makes him go after Alice, and then, everybody else in the future now is out of, like, revenge for his mother.
Sure.
Right? So if he saw his mom get killed, maybe he, like, followed Alice back to the hospital later, and then followed her to her everywhere else.
Why did he wait so long?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's planning.
There's also another thing that happens too in there that I'm not really honestly sure what they're trying to say, but right, like Alice's mom is calling her.
Yeah.
Then she receives a silent phone call, which is supposed to be ominous and like suggestive
that he's calling her.
Calling her. And that's just not possible.
But he just doesn't. I mean, maybe I don't know how he would be calling her.
He couldn't be.
He couldn't be because he's literally like right there.
And he wouldn't know her phone number. In fact, I wouldn't even think Jason would know how to use a phone.
I think even if he knew how to use a phone, though, he wouldn't speak because he's mute.
I get that. I don't care. Like, he doesn't talk there, and that's fine because he doesn't talk. But you're talking about 1957.
Yeah.
He's a kid, drowns, and then is probably by himself up until now. He has no idea how to operate a phone. So even the idea of like he's calling her from another phone in the house, like Billy in Black Christmas or something, is ridiculous to me.
Unless
it doesn't really matter. I guess it could just be a bad connection. It's ominous, but it's like her mom trying to call her back and the connection's just bad. And so it's like
the viewer is like,
oh my God, is it Jason? So that's my explanation, is that it's like her mom calling her back or whatever. And it's just, yeah.
Crazy Ralph has taught him how to use a phone because he's his dad.
Yeah.
And that
was a theory we cooked up in the last one. Crazy Ralph is actually Jason's father. He worked at the camp with Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah, I do think that like everything with like as great as this film is and as exciting as, you know, because it leads to all the future Jasons and everything, I do think that like the jump from the end of Friday 1 to this is hard to connect in like a logical way.
Yeah.
Like you can connect the bare bones of like what we said with like Jason wanting revenge, like he sees his mom die and whatnot, but all that other stuff in there, like how he finds Alice, that's all like very vague and confusing, and you kind of just have to accept that it happens and then like move on in the story.
What if Mrs. Voorhees was a either a counselor or even a attendee, like a child like counselor? No, not counselor.
Like a therapist?
No, like a kid that goes to camp.
An attendee.
Attendant? I guess. I don't know what else to call him.
Camp goer?
A camper? A
camper. A
little camper.
Yeah.
I wanted to give them a much more like
elaborate
title, and it's just a camper. Anyway, let's say she like worked there when she was young, right?
Yeah.
She was a camp counselor. And Ralph was like the guy who oversaw it, like Paul and Jenny.
Yeah.
Right? They fooled around. Mm-hmm. He knocked her up. He could even, and then out of that came this like mongoloid child.
Yeah.
And he like rejected it.
Yeah.
And then so she had like this really negative like idea of this camp. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm going way off now.
I mean, yeah, this is.
And then so she just has this like negative connotation between like sex there.
Yeah.
And counselors and all this stuff.
I like it.
Okay,
it's good.
Okay, moving on from that ridiculous shit. I'm stuck on Ralph being dad. Good. I'm gonna get back to that actually, but the phone call's ridiculous. I have no idea, but I'm gonna go with bad connection. Back to the theory before we get more to the Alice stuff, because I definitely have a few more things to say about that. Somebody had suggested that this was kind of like a setup for Jason Goes to Hell. This is ridiculous, but I don't hate it, because like, what if Mrs. Voorhees was actually possessed by the spirit of Jason?
Right.
And
then
or
the Jason that we know is another body.
Right. Somebody also suggested that Jason was like actually there, and what Brenda responded to out on the archery range was actually Jason crying out for help.
That would be pretty creepy.
Like because in my story, remember, like the one that I want, like if I was to rewrite it, Jason kind of stumbles out of the woods, having, finally found his way back to the camp, and he like comes out and he's like, help me, like I'm so lost, But that would happen. I mean, this is so many years later. This is 23 years later.
Right.
So to me, it would have to be like young Jason who survived and finally stumbled out. But I like that idea that Jason came out and it was like, help me. But he's not a kid anymore. And he doesn't talk.
Right. And also, like, how thick and dense are these woods that he'd be lost for, like,
23 years?
23 years.
That's ridiculous.
And they're by, like, places where people have summer camps.
But him possessing his mom.
Yeah, that is actually pretty interesting.
And, then when her head is cut off, it releases his spirit to go into something else.
He goes into, like, some other guy.
Yeah.
Why he puts a bag on his head and is also.
I just thought it'd be I just thought it'd be a fun connection.
Yeah, it is a fun connection. It's a cool theory.
And then you could also go with the reason Jason looks different in every movie is because every time he's killed at the end of these movies, he wiggles his way out, takes over another body, and then that body like quickly degrades. And that's why he has like a different look every film.
Yeah. It works.
It's ridiculous.
It is a little ridiculous, but it works. It does work.
We got it. I think we're well past 13 minutes already.
Already?
We have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's funny to me. Okay. I definitely think Jason's boots and his pants are way too nice. Like when they step down into the water, those look like pretty brand new jeans and boots.
They are.
But he could have stole them.
He could have.
Right? He's like, I'm going into town. Like he could have looked like his representation here when he runs out with like the spear and just like the loincloth basically.
Yeah.
And that could have been Jason before. He'd been walking around out there naked. And then he was like, if I'm going to be rocking around town, I got to get clothes. He steals clothes at the beginning of part 3.
That's true. He
right?
does.
So he gets a new outfit.
Yeah.
So he's known to change his outfits. Yeah. So I guess they could work. I can make that work. That one's fine. Alice takes the fastest shower. So I think that in Halloween, people always talk about the sex scene with Judith and her boyfriend and how fast that is, but no one talks about the speed
in which
that Alice takes a shower.
Yeah.
Because I always thought, my memory of the film as a kid was that Alice was in the shower. She hears the phone ring, so she shuts it off and gets out to answer the phone. But no, she gets in. We see it's all in one take. She gets in, she turns it on, she opens it up. She turns the shower off, she opens it up, and then the phone rings.
Yeah.
So she literally takes a 5-second shower.
I don't know, just to like rinse off really quick, like really quick.
I mean, really
quick. Anytime I take a really quick shower, it's like a 5-minute shower.
Maybe she's trying to shock the system, right? Like real quick, like jolt of water, like cold water.
Yeah,
it's just like, whoa, I'm awake. Boom. Like I don't want to sleep, right? I'm afraid of sleeping. So I'm going to hit myself with some cold water. I'm tired. Mm-hmm. And I'm wide awake again. Yeah. Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. That's my explanation for a literal 5-second shower. Okay. Then we've got the head in the fridge. So the head in the fridge to me is it's Pam's. It
is Pam's head.
Yeah.
It has to be.
It looks
the way that it's like we talked about it, that like the scene is kind of funny because she gets disconnected from her mom, and then there's like the head in the fridge, so it's almost like it is her mom, but it's not. Like there's no way it would possibly be able to be her mom.
Of course not.
So I definitely think it is obviously Pamela's head.
Unless her mom lives literally next door to her.
Right.
And Jason like
ran.
She goes to call her back, and right as she calls her back, he cuts her head off. Right?
Like
but that
immediately.
What doesn't really work about that is the head does look like it's decomposing.
A little bit, yeah.
A bit. Now, how much would a head decompose without proper storage after months? More than that.
Yeah.
More than what we see. But, I mean, he had good enough sense to throw it in a fridge here.
Yeah.
I don't know why he would have access to another fridge for the last few months. So when he steps down into the water, when he's crossing the street, when that kid's out there, he's carrying a head with him.
Maybe he has her in like one of those like
He has her in the
Serving
sack
trays? Oh
that he
yeah.
wears on his head.
Oh, but that. Oh.
I like
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
what, and then like he keeps it on his head because that's like what he kept his mother's head in.
Oh, yeah.
And
And
he
then
feels closer
he
to
feels
her.
close to her.
I like that.
I like that
I actually
too.
like that a lot. He carries his
Aw.
mom's head around in the bag,
Yeah. And then
and
he
then
puts
when
the
he
sack on.
and then when he finds, so my theory is that Ralph's the shanty house that he finds in the woods is Ralph's, which I think you're the one that suggested that,
Yeah.
right? So I like that. So I think that once he like finds that,
Mm-hmm.
he then places the head on there
Mhm.
and then takes the bag,
Puts
pops it over his head,
Yeah.
to keep close to his mom. I like that he's like carrying her head around in a burlap sack,
Yeah, because he wouldn't carry her around in anything else.
and then
Fancy
he
or-
wears it to like be part of like with his mom. I like that a
That's
lot
sad.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would put that in the script
Mm-hmm.
for sure of my film.
Of
He
your
carries it around
A24.
and then he flips it up and he pops it on himself.
Yeah, I think that works really well.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I didn't think of that one until right now, but that's super cool. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Jason takes the kettle off the oven? It just doesn't seem like something he'd care about.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't.
He's like, I'm gonna get myself some tea.
He's like, after I kill her, I'm gonna want something to relax. So
The only thing I can think is like he doesn't want to draw attention. That if it just
Right.
continues to keep going off.
but it's like it already went off, so it's
But I mean, it's just a whistle. It's like people would know it's a tea thing for if they heard it. But if it just continues to keep going, people are
Yeah.
going to be like, is there something wrong?
mm,
Right?
yeah.
So maybe that's all I got. I don't know why else he would do
I
it.
guess it just doesn't feel like Jason doesn't feel like the character that would have like foresight to do certain things.
I mean, he
he's
hides
not-
bodies.
I know,
And like,
but he's not like that. Almost feels like an animal instinct, which I guess he could also do this out of an instinct.
his mom
as
was
well.
a cook.
That's true. Maybe he saw her do it and was just like, I know this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
And moved it off from like a memory or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
It works. It's
Mhm.
fine enough. It's not impossible.
No.
It's just like, I don't know why he would do it.
Yeah.
The opening definitely features way too much footage of the last film. Not like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 level
No.
or anything, but they could have cut it down.
Yeah.
This is like previously on Friday the 13th,
100%.
right? That's what it felt like, but like even extended beyond that. It's like 3 minutes at least
It's
of
a lot.
footage. It's like, dude, come on.
a lot.
You're padding the runtime a bit here. You had said that Adrienne King wasn't even aware she was getting killed off.
I thought that's what I had heard when I was watching that documentary.
Yeah, she watched Crystal Lake Memories. I haven't.
That she was like, she thought she was coming back, and then they're like, oh, we're killing you off. So
Yeah.
she only worked for like like whatever the day was for filming,
Wonder
which
why.
would be weird to like. I don't know why you wouldn't give them a heads up, but I guess that does happen fairly often in horror films and like franchises. Like they'll bring actors back and like not tell them that they're gonna, which I don't get because I'm like, didn't you read the script? Like, didn't you have to read
Probably not.
your portion of the script?
Probably not.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if you look in the fridge, she definitely got a heads up.
I mean, I don't know. I see like I think that having Alice in the opening, I feel like you don't need that opening. I think it's just like the only reason it's there is to like introduce Jason in a way, but I feel like you could just
I don't agree with that.
I feel like you could not have her in the opening
It's-
and just leave it like, she's
But it's like it's closure to Jason with that chapter, and we're starting a new one. So it's like
it is
he
a closure.
came back
yes.
to kill her, and now he stalks the campgrounds where the mother's death takes place. So like it makes more sense to me that he would go after Alice. This is like what we were talking about with like she's killing all these random kids that had nothing to do with the death,
Yeah.
right? Like his killing of Alice makes the most sense. right, of anything he
Well,
does.
sure,
Because
he's
she's the
wanting
one that
revenge
killed
from her.
his mom.
Yeah. But I just mean that, like, what we were talking about, too, with, like, the logistics of how he would find her and all this stuff. And just, I don't know.
Sure,
like, I guess it is kind
I
of
don't think
that.
it matters.
It is that sort of, like, it's tricking the viewer as well. Like, you see the same actor from the previous films. So you're like, all right, we're with the same character. And then she gets killed. And it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen now?
Yeah, that's great.
Like, I get that. That's
Yeah.
fine. I'm not saying that that's bad. But I don't know. I just think that because it's kind of convoluted with how he gets to her and stuff, I think that you could have gone another route and started him like at camp, like looking for her and getting confused and killing other people and having like flashbacks and stuff to like when he was at camp.
I think that I commend this film for having the balls to do it. Right, and doing it in a like cold open kind of way, and killing off like Sydney's been in way too many goddamn Scream movies. Laurie Strode has been in way too many goddamn Halloween movies. Right, like I like that our main survivor of the last movie is killed right in the opening. Like Jason isn't messing around, and we're gonna set ourselves apart.
Yeah.
From this, right? Andy Barclay is in friggin' so many Child's Plays.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometime they gotta die. It's like lightning striking twice. Like it's one of those things where it's like it makes the killer seem super inferior to me.
That they can't
when they can't kill
like
one person specifically every time.
I agree.
It's like, come on, dude, you can't kill her.
Yeah, I agree. I like that there's new characters introduced and like a new final girl and new people to go up against. I don't have a problem with Alice dying or anything.
I get what you're saying.
I'm more just questioning like what like her involvement. But I think what you said about like it makes sense for him to have like the closure of that chapter. Like I do like that. And it is a way obviously to get him back into the world. So it works. It's fine. It's just confusing in like how. That's all.
I also want to make sure we draw attention to my Friday 2 shirt that I wore specifically for this review. My second favorite in the franchise, just behind the final chapter. Anyways, okay, so I think we're done with Alice.
Yes.
So cool to get Adrienne back. But I'm glad that this film kind of pulls a psycho and kills off our main character and leaves us with a oh shit.
I mean, it does. It's similar to the first film too. The first film with Annie.
You know, another thing
that's the same thing.
Another thing that this film kind of does, that it doesn't do it exactly, but it's close-ish. This film doesn't really feel like it has a main character until the end.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's revealed that Ginny's the final girl. Now, you can figure out that she probably is.
Yeah.
Because of her introduction, because of how she's handled, because of the fact that she's not one-dimensional and that she thinks deeper about Jason than anyone else does. That makes her a more interesting character, and the probability of her being the final girl is extremely high. So I don't want to say that it's not there and it's not tropey to a degree, but I do feel like Ginny isn't the focal point of the film, and that we do kind of spread the time around to other characters, and Ginny disappears from the film for a large portion of time.
Yeah, she
does. And this does not happen as much in other slasher films like this.
Yeah.
We always kind of keep going back. Now, we do go back to Ginny, right? She's at the bar, sitting there with Paul. Like, that, I get that. There's little bits of it, and we break it up to a degree. But we really do, like, distance ourselves from the people at the bar, and we focus on what's happening back at the camp for a good while. And then Ginny comes back into it, and they go back, and you kind of figure, like, she's not there.
Yeah.
So when she comes back, the tropes, but at this point, this is 1981. I don't think the tropes had really been established yet. This is the kind of film that was establishing the tropes.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I like that this film doesn't have a classic final girl.
Yes.
Um,
I agree.
Friday 4 kind of has the same thing going on, where Trish is technically the final girl, but I mean, Tommy Jarvis is the final boy.
Yeah.
But you don't really spend a lot of time with Trish.
Mm-hmm.
You're really spending a lot more time at the other house with the victims. So I do like that. I don't want to just have our main focus, because if I was to ever write a slasher film that got produced, I do want to have every character have equal time to where you genuinely don't know if anyone's going to survive the film and who's going to be the last one standing.
That's the more exciting way too. And I think that this film, because the focus is kind of a little more evenly spread out, it does kind of accomplish that to a degree, where you're thinking like, you know, who's going to be the survivor, and it also lets you get to know the characters more.
Yeah.
And I like that too, because I think that one of the fun things about slasher films is like the characters, you know, that we get to, even though they might be stereotypes and everything, like it's still really fun to spend time with them. Like when we're with Mark and what's her face and Vicky, like everything with them is like really cute, and like I like all of that, those interactions, and you know, so I like that it's spread out.
And shout out to the actress who plays Vicky. I got the opportunity to interview her recently. And if you want to check out the review, head on over into the search and find it. She's a doll. Okay, so what was I going to say? Something to you about what you just said that I was like, yeah, I like something with that.
Spreading out, getting to know the characters.
Oh, yes. So when it comes to this, okay. So while the characters in these films can be one-dimensional, and a lot of the times are, these films, the ones you go back to, the ones that you remember, the ones that are revered in the slasher subgenre by us slasher fans, above probably all else, the characters are what make us return.
Yeah.
So even if they are silly and whatever, they're entertaining. They're memorable, right? Crispin Glover's character in Friday 4 with his dance, and there's all sorts of characters throughout these. As lame as they may seem on paper, and when you talk about them, you're like, oh, these are just throwaway bodies for the knife, right? Cannon fodder kind of stuff. I don't think people give enough credit to the characters in slasher films.
Yeah.
Because I remember the characters in Friday the 13th Part 2 way more than I do with a lot of other films that I watch.
Sure, yeah.
There are very memorable things going on here with these characters, and their dialogue, their camaraderie with their fellow colleagues, stuff like that. I love it, and it is what brings me back. I like the kills, I like the nudity, I like all that stuff, but it is the characters, number one, that bring me back to these movies.
Yeah.
So I just want that to be stated by slasher fans, that our movies may have one-dimensional characters, but damn, they're likable.
They're very likable. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think that the characters are what bring us back above all.
Or even when they're not likable.
Well, yeah, because
it's
not only the characters that you're rooting for to survive, but also obviously like with slashers, like the slashers themselves are as much a part of that as anything else.
Yeah.
You know, and like as one-dimensional as like you can maybe argue that some of these killers are, I think that there is a good argument that that's not the case too.
Yeah.
Like especially with Jason, you know, like he kind of reminds me in a way, like he's obviously a murderer and he's not a good person, but I do kind of feel a similar way to him that I do with like Leatherface, where it's like the circumstances and also like his mental capacity and all of these things sort of play a factor into what he becomes ultimately.
Yeah.
Which is why like you've been talking about like a prequel with seeing how Pamela acts around her son.
Yeah.
You know, and like how she
Bates
could have,
Motel.
yeah, like that kind of a thing would be wonderful to go into.
Yeah.
Because I do think that, and I think that like Ginny in this like has a great analysis of him too.
A frightened retard.
Not that, but like, yeah, you know, like, and not those words, but yeah, I think that she like really like nails it with like the whole mother-son issue.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think that the killers are obviously just as endearing to horror fans as the other characters, as the protagonists. So.
Yeah, Kaylee's got a hard on for killers, so she's gonna always find a reason for them to be sympathetic villains. Even though this one is a literal mongoloid zombie who carries around his mom's dead severed head.
Baby.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay. The title of this movie explodes. The first one breaks through glass. This one explodes.
Yeah, they just continue to get
and
more
then
intense.
The next one, it literally comes out of the screen into the theater 3-dimensionally. And then the title of the fourth blows up as well. A lot of explosions going on here. I do love that the title explodes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so in the opening, we get Sandy and what's his name? Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff and Sandra, they come into town and they call her friend, and so I'm not exactly sure how this works out because we're going to talk about logic and breakdown here. So this is before cell phones. This is before pagers. This is before anything. Although this is 1985, we still don't have those things. So Jeff and Sandra, they pull into town and they go to the payphone, and the tow truck driver immediately comes around the corner, hooks up their truck, and drives off. Now, let's think about this logically. Okay. To be fair, I don't know if it's ever stated where they're coming from, but they are friends with this guy, and they have no idea where he lives.
Yeah.
So to me, they're coming from a decent distance.
Yeah.
Right? So this tow truck driver would literally be having to sit at that corner waiting for them to pull up.
A day.
Know this description because they don't know each other.
Yeah.
It would have to be like, oh, they're going to be driving this kind of truck, whatever. You just have to be sitting there all day.
Yeah.
This tow truck driver has literally nothing else better to do with his life.
It's a small town. Yeah. He was like, I'll do it.
He comes up and starts towing their truck.
I know.
Literally 3 to 5 seconds after they pull up and run away from their car. So he would have to be seriously sitting, like waiting for how long? Hours? Because he has no idea when they're actually going to show up in town.
It kind of feels like it could be like one of those like spontaneous, like serendipitous moments where it's like they pull up at the same time that he's there.
It is a 100% a planned thing because
I know it's planned.
The friend knows it's happening.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Because he's distracting them on the phone on purpose, giving them wrong directions because he lives right around the corner.
Yeah.
So
he definitely see them? Because that's what I was like. That's what I mean about it being like.
For sure, I know this. He told them once you get into town, there's a payphone. Call me from that payphone, and I will tell you where to go from there.
Yeah.
Because the fact they stopped right there specifically, and the tow truck driver's there, he absolutely had to tell them to stop there for any of this even remotely work.
Maybe he knew like approximately how long it would take them, like what their arrival would be.
Sure, right? But he would still have to be sitting out there for quite a while. This guy has a job.
Yeah.
He's a tow truck driver. I think he has better shit to do than hang out on a corner for a kid's prank. This dude's like in his 40s, 50s, something, 40s. Although it's the freaking 80s, he might be 25.
Honestly.
But he's like, he had to just be sitting there all day. Waiting for this, show up. Yeah.
I don't have.
You know, it should have been waiting for him instead of the tow truck driver.
What?
Is to catch a predator.
Oh yeah.
since
Yeah.
Sandra is underage.
She's underage.
But we're going to say in the movie, Sandra is not. She is of age.
The character?
Yes.
Yeah, but the actress is not.
No, the actress is not.
Yes.
She shot a nude scene. They had to cut from the film because she was 17. All right. And so yeah, I've always found that scene to be pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right. So then I will say this. This is kind of funny. I never noticed that until this time. But when Paul is introducing himself and talking to all the camp counselors, the new and the old and whatever, everyone he personally knows dies.
Oh yeah.
And everyone he doesn't know,
they live.
For the most part, lives.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of like side characters that we see when they're like doing like various activities, like when they're doing their run and whatnot, and like when they're at the campfire, like telling the spooky tales, but they all survive because they all leave.
What I find funny about this is that in the first one, Steve Christie's is the one who brings them there and gets them killed.
Yeah.
In this one, Paul's the one who brings them there and gets them killed. And he knows them.
Yeah.
And it's the ones he calls.
Yes.
Like, hey, we used to work together.
Right.
At this one, we've worked a few places together in the past, whatever. Everyone he calls out by name dies.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's just like...
He knows the redhead. I always forget what his name is. Reptile Sherbicle from friggin' Just One of the Guys.
He knows him. He lives.
He does live.
He lives.
He probably drank himself to death, though. He was drinking way too many beers.
Oh my gosh,
But he got in a car wreck that night. Died. That was... No.
That's not funny.
No, it's not. But he doesn't acknowledge him in that conversation. He just is sitting next to him because he's like his helper.
Oh yeah.
Right? But like,
he does know him.
Everybody he talks to, Jason's that he's like, I know you specifically.
In the forest, and he's just like, all right, the people that he
No, because they're just the ones that happen to stay behind. Right? All the other ones take off.
Yeah.
It is interesting to me though that Paul takes out all the people he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna go hang out with the people I don't know, and then I'm gonna leave all the people I do know behind. Mm-hmm. Like if in my personal life, like I'm going to hang out with my friends, the people I already know, the people I already have a rapport with. But he is the leader of the camp, and he should be getting to know his people. But I do think it's kind of irresponsible that after he gives them the like, let's get our shit together speech, let's all go get drunk together.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be kind of like a one glass. It's the 80s, and it's also like their last...
One glass?
Their last hurrah.
Oh, last.
Before,
I thought you said one glass.
Camp starts.
Yeah. I didn't notice that until this time. I know it's because... Obviously, as a storytelling device, it's introducing the characters to get to know them specifically, and we don't have time to go through every single person because they're canon. They are not canon fodder. They are literally just background.
Yes, they are background.
They're white noise.
Yes, they're just there to like, which is really interesting because in what is it? It's Jason Lives, right? Where there's which one? Where there's actual kids at the camp?
Jason Lives. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to have more people other than the ones that are just dying there.
Yeah.
So, like, it would have been fun to have interactions with these other characters that are in the background, but it also kind of makes it scarier, too, in a way, to think, like, there's people there that are, like, holy cow, I was at Camp Crystal Lake, and Jason was there killing people, and somehow I didn't die just because the camp counselor leader guy didn't know me.
I mean, those people would be like the like Saw survivor.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, they're like I
survived Camp Crystal Lake. But yeah, I think that would have been a cool plot line for part 3. Is like the survivors of part 2 being, kind of getting together.
Yeah.
And going to like a funeral and maybe spreading their ashes on the lake. And being like, I can't believe like we survived, Ginny killed him, whatever, and then he comes back and kills them or something. But like the survivors of the first one, or the second one, I just find it's almost like it's fated.
Yes.
That's like, man, if I would have just stayed behind.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And the dude who's going after the chick, the creepy dude.
Sure.
He literally stays just to hit on her.
Yeah.
And then Vicky stays just to hit on Mark.
Yes.
Right. So it's and Sandra and Jeff stay because they just want to bang.
Right.
So it's basically like everybody who wants sex
horny stays
and can get it or thinks they can get it stays behind and dies.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, I just want to have fun. I'm going to go to the bar.
This is why the trope is made, right? Like, don't have sex in scary movies.
This one is super prevalent on that.
Yes.
This one is really, laying into that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And I never have understood the like child psychology line to Paul when he goes to help her fix the car and she's like, you're such a sucker for it. I think that this has to do with what she was saying back in the cabin that they're at. Maybe
she's like, I promise I'll never
do it again. My car was sick. Life. That kind of stuff. Like, I'm manipulating you with my cuteness or whatever.
That's what I think too, because it doesn't make sense in the context that she says it otherwise.
Like, oh, you helped me fix my car. But like, he doesn't. He just opens it up and looks at it and he's like, try it again. And it blows it into his face. Like, see, when I was a kid, I always took that as like, she was purposely not turning it over to get him to go back there because she was annoyed with him. And then when he went back there and she knew he was going to try to help. She knew that he was going to like be back there to get a face full of it. Maybe that's the
child psychology.
Right. That's what I had always originally thought.
I think that's it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's messed up.
I think that is messed up.
But
I think
poisonous,
you're right.
Man. That crap is thrown into his face.
She's just being like ornery.
Because she was late.
I know. She's mean.
I mean, when she gets there, she knows she's in trouble because she's the one who screwed up.
I know.
And then she's like, I'm going to fill your face full of crap.
Call her out in front of everybody. He like takes her aside and is like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
As far as the sex trope goes, though, so originally when I covered this the first time, I had always thought that Jenny was pregnant when I was younger, because she was like, Paul, I have something to tell you. And he was like, basically not now, when I have sex kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then in the morning she wakes up and it's like, watch for bears or watch out for bears or whatever. And then someone brought it to my attention in that review in the comments that no, she was telling him that she's on her period. And this is why, when they're talking about like, keep clean during your menstrual cycle because of bears or whatever. He's like trying to get it with her and she's like, I have something to tell you. And then she wakes up to watch out for bears. And I think that what's going on there is that if you really want to go like that, let's say she comes, he's going at her and she's like, well, we can't do it. I'm on my period kind of thing. Yeah. And so they don't sleep together. They don't have sex. They sleep together. But then when she wakes up, so basically, she didn't have sex, so she survives. But Vicky didn't have sex, and she and also the Minnie Mouse girl. I can't remember Terry, right? Isn't Terry the one with the Mickey Mouse shirt that gets naked in the movie and goes skinny dipping? Isn't that Terry?
I think so.
I think that's Terry.
Yeah.
And then, what's his name? I don't know his name. I forget his name. The guy who needs. The guy who needs like, because we couldn't figure that line out for a second when he's like, "You're gonna need it," and it was like, I think we
keep calling him the creepy guy.
Yeah, I think that was.
I want to say his name is like Nick, but I don't think that's it. I'm gonna look it up.
That's in reference, we think, to the fact that like, Paul's like, welcome to training. Yeah. And he's like, hey, good to see you. You're going to need it. Like, you're going to need extra training. I've worked with you before. You definitely need extra training.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I never really put much thought into that line.
Scott. His name is Scott.
That's right.
Gosh, sorry.
Scott, good to see you. You're going to need it. Because like, you're going to need it. I was always like, luck? Like, what are you saying? I don't understand. What does he need? He needs the extra training. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's pretty close.
But even though they don't have the sex, like they are actively trying to.
Sure.
And obviously,
and honestly, Carrie, she probably went down on him.
Oh yeah.
She's like, okay, you took a face full of it. I'll take. No, okay. And he's like, that child psychology. You're such a sucker for it. Get it? Get it?
Bro.
No.
Yeah, I
Okay,
get
you
it.
get it. Obviously, the Paul Campfire tale, which I actually love.
I do too.
That actually could have been the place for the exposition and flashback sequences.
Yeah.
Right? But I actually do like this scene. And of course, I think anyone who's a slasher fan is always going to liken this to the very odd coincidence of an almost identical scene in The Burning, which also came out in 1981. Now, my thoughts on that have always been, and there's no confirmation on this, this is just my own speculation. Tom Savini worked on part 1. He was sent the script for part 2. He declined it to go work on The Burning. And when he was there, he was like, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they did it. Because that's the common thread. It's Tom Savini. He worked on Friday 1. He worked on The Burning.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he was like, you want to work on 2? He looked at it and was like, pass. I already did it. And then he came back for 4 because they were like, we're killing it. And he was like, that's the monster I created.
Yeah.
I want to kill it, kind of thing, he says. But I am under the belief that Tom Savini, he can deny it all he wants, but that makes the most sense to me because it is eerily similar.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, Savini, you're the common thread here.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. I think that's a good reason why it would be so similar.
Yeah. And Jason, when he's in his POV, when we're watching the counselors run and they're training and whatever, and Jeff like gives Mark the middle finger, we get a POV shot of Jason in the woods, and he's huffing and puffing. He's out of shape. Yeah, that's him. Huffing and puffing.
Yeah. He probably hasn't been running a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, here's
but he
Kaylee
gets into shape. No, I'm just
defending him.
No, I'm just saying he's probably just, not been super active.
Yeah. Chopping bodies up isn't activity enough.
Maybe he's excited then. Maybe it's like a huffing and puffing out of excitement.
When Terry is coming into that scene, when she's looking for Muffin, which I will say this, I forgot to mention this, I'm glad I remembered. Jeff and Sandra keeping Muffin's death to themselves cost Terry her life.
100%.
She stays behind because she wants to look for Muffin. And now, would she have went out if she was grieving over her dog? Probably not, but she might have honestly left camp.
Yes. Oh, sure. I would leave.
But she straight up says, like, I'm going to stay behind because I want to look for Muffin.
And they don't even, react.
They kind of just like, nope, not going to say nothing.
Awful.
So I believe it. Sandra and Jeff are responsible.
Yeah, they totally are. It's so shitty what they do. Because they're like, we didn't see anything.
He's like, he's like, not according to me, but like, as far as I'm concerned, we didn't see anything or whatever.
Yeah. Like, dude, you saw like a mutilated dog.
Is Muffin.
That's Muffin. And even if you're like, I'm not sure, it's still a dead dog, and you know that somebody has a dog at camp that's like they're looking for. So and why wouldn't you say it?
Just to clarify, because we will talk about this at the end, but the ending with Muffin is a dream sequence.
Unfortunately,
Muffin is dead. In my opinion, you guys can obviously hold a different opinion, but it only makes sense to me.
Muffin to be alive.
That Muffin is
Muffin
dead.
didn't do nothing.
Yeah. Plus, it could explain why Jason's look is different, right? From part 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Because Jason jumps through the window and it's in her dream. Now, that doesn't hold a lot of credibility because she did take his mask off and saw his face. So in her dream, he should look how he looks.
He should look like the
So I'm trying to extend.
The other part, too, is that you also can exaggerate things in your dreams, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But that's something I don't feel like I've ever heard talked about. Sandra and Jeff are responsible
100%.
for Terry's death. Not outright, they didn't kill her.
No, but they're responsible.
Their irresponsibility led to her demise.
Yes.
Okay. Alice died 2 months after part 2. Supposedly. I thought it said a couple months. I think is what they said. So 2 months, yes. Yeah. This is a quick one. It's a total throwaway line, but Ginny's bathing suit bikini is awful.
Oh,
that strap thing.
You don't like
I don't like two tops
anyway. So,
they are so unflattering to her.
Yeah, I don't really like it either, but
because once again, pretty much every girl in this movie is super cute.
Yeah.
And just Ginny is not doing herself any favors with that outfit. Yeah. And would she be out there if she was on her period? Would she be out there swimming in the lake with them in an outfit like that?
I mean, people put in tampons and stuff.
Sure.
I do think it's kind of unrealistic.
She wasn't in the water, so she might not be getting in the water. She could just be sunbathing and hanging out with them.
I guess it depends. It also depends on how far into her period she was. Because first, and everyone's different. Some women have no issues whatsoever whenever they have their period. So
yeah.
Do
you think Paul, if he did survive this, I think he did. Do you think Paul? Because there's if Ginny's vision is a dream sequence, Paul 100% survived.
Yes.
Right, because he comes in, she acts, machetes him through the clavicle here, and then he falls over and they walk away together. Yeah. There's no death between there and that, right? So if all we ever see from there is a dream sequence, and then she wakes up and she's being gurneyed away, Paul's 100% alive. So anyway, since he survived, or I'm going to say confirmed, unless you don't think that's a dream sequence, then explain Muffin. It doesn't matter. But do you think Paul holds guilt for dismissing the sheriff's warnings?
Yes.
So cockily.
Oh my God, yes.
Cockily? Is that a real?
Cockily is not a word, but it can
Cocky?
Be. So
cockish?
Cockily?
What is it? How do you say?
I don't think you can
cocky,
say it.
But like that.
I don't think you can.
By being so cocky about it, I guess. You have to reword it.
You would just be a different word, arrogantly.
Like cockily.
Cockily, yeah. I don't think... I think he would have a ton of guilt.
He's very dismissive.
Yeah. And I think he would be oh my God, I've just got all these kids killed.
Because also, I would outright say that the cop having to come out there to keep an eye on those counselors, then catching Jeff and Sandra, then driving back from the reprimanding and arrest of them, seeing Jason, thinking it's a counselor, once again chasing him out there and dying, that's the camp's fault for opening, and Paul's the guy in charge, and he's the one's I'm not shutting it down.
Yes.
So I think he's responsible for the sheriff's death as well.
I think so too.
I mean, do I think he should be charged? No.
No, but I do think he'll hold a lot of guilt over it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just found that interesting when he was being very cockily.
He's being
about it and just being no seconds on dessert and all this and that.
Last review we were
oh yeah, you something. Your words you made up. Unmarital.
And now we have cockily.
Cockily. Hey man, we got to come up with wild theories and new words in every one of these Friday revisits.
No pressure.
We're revisiting the dictionary.
That's English language.
And adding new words to it. I'm into it.
Yeah.
So 0 out of 10 for Ginny's bathing suit. All right. And let's see. Wow, I wrote a lot for that one.
For the bathing suit?
No, for Paul.
Oh, okay.
Does Paul own it? Yeah. Does Paul own it? Does Paul own this, or is he just in charge? He's manager? Because the sheriff comes to him and is we got to shut it down.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have the authority unless he was like pretty high up, like an owner like Steve Christie.
I understand why they like, because I feel like with camps, like why would they own the camp? But we were talking about it like
Paul
with the
Christie.
Christies. Like I
How
do
cool
feel
would that
like
be?
Steve
Paul Christie?
Steve Christie did, yeah, that would be cool. But he did buy it. Like Steve bought it.
Steve, but yes. Well, the Christie family.
The Christie family bought it recently, but I don't know. I think that a lot of camps, like you don't buy them, like you're like leasing, like you would rent out a camp for the summer or something, right?
You can own the land. I think it would be cool.
Probably did buy it because of I think that the property is probably like got a red spot on it or whatever. I don't know, like it's got a black mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
well, yeah, you got it for cheap,
right? Yeah.
But I also like the fact that he inherited it. That this is like he's a nepo baby.
He's like a cousin,
and that he gets it, and it's like I can't do anything with it. No one will buy it, so I'm just going to open up a camp. I happen
to also be a camp counselor.
No, he just is like screw it. After 5 years of trying to sell it, trying to get rid of it, he
is a camp counselor.
He's taking property tax issues and shit, and he's like, look, I got to make a business. I got to do something with this property. It's killing me. I can't even give it away.
I think he bought it.
I like that he inherited it.
I think he bought it. I think he bought it for cheap.
I know that I think his name is shown in this.
Yeah.
I want to say his last name is revealed, and it ain't Christie. But that doesn't mean that he can't be part of the family that inherited it.
Let's see if it just says Paul.
No, yeah, it doesn't say his last name, but I thought it said it somewhere in some paper or something. But whatever, he inherited it. He's a nepo baby. Couldn't get rid of it for 5 years, so he decided, I got to turn a profit on this thing. Screw it. I would have liked that. I think that would have been an interesting subplot of like Paul's kind of up against it, and he's like trying to make the best of it, and he ends up getting everyone killed, and having an ending like that, like I was just trying to make a living, like I was just trying, I didn't mean to, right? Or like the sheriff would have lived and came back and been like, you want to listen to me now?
Yeah, right.
See, I would have liked that. I would have liked the dramatic ending of that. You know what I mean?
Really intense.
If he would have just even a look between them.
Sure.
Of like he comes in and Paul's just looking at him like, yeah, and the cops just kind of give him the "I told you so" look, right?
That'd be so much drama.
Yeah, and you could even have like the sheriff's kid is one of the counselors, and he's like, "No, you can't work here," right? Just add a little drama to it. Right?
And she's like, no, I'm going to work here.
Vicky. I'd have liked that.
Yeah.
So, rewriting the script.
Whoa.
Rewriting the script a little bit. But I think that would have worked to the film's benefit. Okay. Yeah, I already suggested that's Crazy Ralph's place. I like that.
Yes.
I like that Jason like moved into it after Ralph, or they live there together because they're father and son.
Father and son. Yes, they are.
Okay, let's see. Now, I already know your feelings on swimming in this lake, which is no.
Awful. 0 out of 10.
But skinny dipping alone at night,
negative 5,000
in a lake is. There are people who do it 100%.
They're psychopaths.
Yeah.
If you do that, you're a psychopath.
But that's the only nudity we get in the film, so 10 out of 10.
Fine, whatever about that, but like the whole situation, no.
Yeah, and we even get
stepping into the lake.
Yeah.
You stepped on a lake and the lake.
Oh yeah, I hate it.
It's awful.
I don't like the feel of it.
It's so gross. I would much rather be in the ocean, and even the ocean is scary. But like,
the ocean's terrible.
Your feet like on the like pebbles and the like rocks and stuff in the ocean,
in
the lake, and like the moss and the slime and everything.
Gross. I don't like swimming in open water, but I have.
And when
I took you down, I don't like murky water.
Crystal Lake is not a crystal clear lake. It's not.
Not at night.
Murky lake.
For sure. Yeah.
You can't see anything in there.
Yeah.
You know that there's a dead bodies probably.
Yeah.
Like no.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, I would not ever.
Yeah.
So I think she deserves to die.
Deserves to die.
I'm
That's
just
absurd.
kidding. But like she's like, I'm looking for a muffin, and then she's like, I just go skinny dipping.
Right. She's swimming out there to look for Muffin.
Bro, what? No.
We see her Muffin when she comes out.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. But yes, I don't like swimming in open water. Pools only for the most part. But I did. I mean, over at the creek, right, in that
That's,
water.
like,
And
different,
no, it
though.
isn't. That's gross.
It's
And I don't
gross
like
water,
it.
but it's like
I
it's
don't
not as
like
big.
it.
Like
I
the
know.
lakes, like
I've swam. I used to live in Lake Arrowhead, and I used to go like jet skiing down at Lake Pleasant.
no.
And I jumped in the, like I was jet skiing out there, jumped in the water and swam around a bunch.
There's also like things you can get. That was the other thing. There's like
oh yeah,
what are those?
It can travel up
like
your
bacterias and stuff.
they're
and
like
she
little
was
amoebas
naked.
or whatever, and they
Even
can
if
travel
you're
up
not
your
naked.
urethra.
Yeah.
Oh sure, they can go through. Yeah, you don't. It doesn't matter if you're
doesn't
wearing
matter,
anything or not. I'm sure if you're. It doesn't matter. Let's move on from that. It's gross. Okay. And yep. And Mark, I don't know if his like senses are also paralyzed, but like his ability to read that Vicky's coming on to him,
know.
bro.
He's so
is your
clueless.
radar paralyzed too? Like
sometimes I get it though.
No.
Like
no.
he
No.
probably
Vicky's coming on him so hard. I get the way you're probably gonna say that he's probably not used to someone coming on to him in a wheelchair.
Like I think he's just kind of in his head and like
maybe he just thinks that she's like
so she's like being nice.
Being nice.
Yeah. So I don't know that he's
okay,
I think
maybe.
he's probably just kind of like, she's not that into me. Like she's just
so aggressively coming on to him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's not unbelievable. It's not unbelievable because I have 1000% met people. I think Kaylee's one of these people that like they can have people. You can be like that person's coming on to you, and they're like, no, they're not. And you're like, bro, they pulled their penis out and showed it to you. They're coming on to you. What do you mean?
Yeah, I've definitely had that happen before where people are like flirting with me and I didn't realize it until somebody told me that that's what was happening. And I was like, what?
But then there's egotistical people who are like, everyone's flirting with them.
Oh, sure.
Right? And they read it way wrong.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's scary.
I find that I have a very good sense of this for myself.
Yeah, I would believe that you would. That's not surprising to me.
Yeah. I think it's very obvious, but I have a very good way of reading people in that way. And some people just aren't in tune with that. And as you said, I could buy that. I'll take your argument and say that he's insecure or he's not used to people hitting on him and he just thinks he's like a charity case to her. And he might not even like that. He might even be like, oh, she just wants me because she feels bad for me.
Right.
But it is like when she's like, I should say, when he says, like, what are we playing for? And she says position and leans back and is like showing him between her legs. Then he's like, oh, like he gets, and then he's immediately like into it.
Yes.
So it's not like he doesn't want her. It's not like he is like, once he realizes she's coming on to him, he's about it. It's not like he realizes it and then he's like, oh no, you only want me because of this. No. So he really is just oblivious to it. And it might just be because he's conditioned to think. But I feel like his accident's fairly recently because he said he got in a motorcycle accident. He can't be more than 20 something.
It is fairly recent, yeah.
So it happened in the last few years.
It's a huge life change too, so
it is.
I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
And I asked Vicky herself if she thinks Mark can get it up. And she said no. She said he only was going to offer conolingus. And I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. And also I asked her about the nasty brown panties that she changes into, and she was like, I did actively protest against those on set.
Yeah,
but the director was like, no, they're satin or silk, satin, whatever, silk.
Yeah,
and he's like, that's sexy or whatever. And she was just like, no,
they're
whatever.
Like such unflattering panties.
Yes.
They really are.
But she was very aware of it. And she even said that she's received gifts from fans, including a bar of soap she showed us, that someone had crafted brown panties onto like legs and gave it to her because she's kind of famous for her ugly. Because when I'm growing up watching this movie and I'm watching this kind of stuff, I'm like, ew, that's gross. And I don't know whatever anybody else is going to think of that. But it's funny to know that she now has this like following of people that are like gross brown panties. But of course I'd be the guy in an interview to ask her about it.
Yeah.
And I also asked her about her panties in Neighbors as well, because she has iconic panties in that. She has edible panties. So anyway, watch that review, that interview. It's super fun. Okay. Anyway, so what's the guy's name? Scott. He steps into a bear trap or whatever you want to call it, and Jason would have had to have been there to pull that. So just so we know, there's no spring trap or anything in that. You have to be on the other end. I don't know why they don't know that, but they have to know somebody did that. But I guess they're just idiots. And that somehow you just put your foot between a rope and it springs.
Yeah, that's what they think.
He doesn't step on anything.
I know, but that's definitely what they think. It's just that, like.
But Jason definitely was there, popped him.
Yeah.
And that was that. So I do find it funny that they don't seem to realize that those kinds of traps do not trigger like that. You have to be on the other end. Literally, that's how you do it. You wait for an animal and you hold it and hold it and hold it until they walk into it and you pull it. And Jason knows that because
he's been hunting.
He went to camp.
Yeah, he did go to camp.
Yeah, I like that. That's part
Scout.
of what I would want to see in my script is Jason learning like Boy Scout stuff.
Yeah.
Right, at camp.
Using it
later. Right, which is kind of sort of what they did in the remake, but I'm not a fan of that movie, and I don't think they utilized it correctly, personally. Okay, and once again, Terry throws her towel in the woods.
Yeah.
Also, earlier, I was trying to say, and I forgot, that when Terry's out looking for Muffin, she's staring straight at the camera. She does this twice in the film. She stares directly at the camera. It's an odd choice, but it's always Terry. I don't know why. But first one is she's looking for Muffin, and she's looking directly at the camera. But that is a POV of Jason.
Yeah, looking at her.
So is she looking at Jason and not realizing what she's looking at?
That's what I think.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, that she's like not realizing
registering.
Yeah.
That's like a man.
Yeah.
She's like, is that a burlap sack?
I know. Well, because his outfit is kind of like, it's not camouflage, but it would be kind of hard to make out, especially with like your face disguised like that. Yeah. Like you would be like, what is that? Like I do
think she's looking right at Jason and kind of like and then she gets called away. Mm-hmm. They don't put enough emphasis on it to make that for sure, but that's my read on that. Now the second time she comes up from under the camera and looks at the camera, I got no explanation for that one. That one is silly. That's just Steve Miner being silly. And she does toss the towel when she's walking back after Scott gets hung up, and just literally tosses it at the camera, but the camera is on the side of a place. Definitely toss that towel right out into the woods. Yeah. But for some reason, Steve Miner got very obsessed with Terry interacting with the lens. He's like, look at the lens here. Look at the lens here. Throw a towel at the lens here.
I know.
I'm like, what's up with Terry and your obsession with her and the lens? He must have had a crush on her or something.
Maybe.
He's like, look at me, baby. Throw a towel at me. Take off. He's like, I want you to be the one who gets naked. Right?
Yeah, maybe he did have a thing for her.
She's good looking. Yeah. I mean, he could do worse. All right. And the blade that slices Scott's neck is he uses the wrong side of the blade. But hey, maybe he's pushes it really hard. Doesn't even really touch his neck. Okay. And it is confirmed in here, or at least confirmed in a anecdotal sense, that Alice fell out of the canoe.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, somebody says something. I think it's the redhead. Maybe. I can't remember exactly who says it, but they're essentially like, just because some girl fell out of a canoe, right?
Right.
And thought she saw Jason, right? So I think that's confirmation that they did pull her out of the lake and not out of the boat in the lake. So she drowned.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. Or at least close to. And Jenny actually suggests what I've always suggested, and I like that it's said outright in this film, that Jason witnessed his mother's death. Mm-hmm. She's like, he must have saw the whole thing. I don't know why she would think that, because this was 23 years after his death, supposedly, and why he'd just be rooting around out there. And to me, there's no way Pamela knows he's alive.
No, there's no way.
I shouldn't say no way. Maybe she's just like, look what you did to my boy. Like he's a frightened retard now. Her words, not mine.
I guess, yeah, maybe like she's in such like denial and is still living in the past that even though he's like alive and an adult, she still sees it as like she missed out on him.
Wouldn't it be interesting if like we saw scenes where he was like with her, but she was talking for him?
That would be creepy. That would be really
Tell
creepy.
me, mommy. And he's just kind of like walking next to her.
Oh my god, I don't like that. That's scary. That's scary. Yeah. But I do like it. But what?
But yeah, that's where we get the idea. That's, I think, probably where I got the idea of, Jason saw his mom's death. I've always liked that idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Anyway, little pro tip for the ladies here: don't ever spray perfume on your vagina.
Don't.
Mark's death is definitely very visceral and one of my favorite kills in the franchise, even though it's not all that gory. It is graphic still, and I love the way he comes down the stairs and the freeze frame, and
very memorable.
It's great.
Yeah,
it's great because he's handicapped.
I know,
and he's like fighting against everything. Not that us non-handicapped people have any more like we should be killed. And that the handicapped are more valuable than us.
Yeah. No, it's not that at all.
But it's just like he got a raw deal, man.
Exactly. That's more what it's like. It's like, dang.
He's dealt with enough.
Yeah.
He's dealt with enough. But he survived a motorcycle accident. He did not survive Jason. No, he didn't.
How many people do?
Man, 2 wheels got him, though. Huh?
2 wheels both times.
He's not good on 2 wheels.
No. He's gonna stay off those.
He's definitely gonna stay off them for now.
Yeah.
Unless his casket has 2 wheels.
Why?
Okay. Crazy theory, but Jason's waiting in bed with Sandra's body. Jeff's in the corner. Sandra's in the bed with him. He's under the covers with her. You think Vicky potentially walked in on Jason's necrophiliac tendencies?
Maybe.
You think maybe because he witnessed their sexuality?
Yeah.
And
he tried it?
He stabbed him, pulled him off, got into bed with her, and was kind of trying to like figure out what was going on.
Maybe.
And then like Vicky kind of walked in on them, so he like hid.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
His pants aren't undone or anything. Possible. Like his overalls aren't undone, but that doesn't mean maybe he was just starting to go.
I take it back. I think Jason is one of the least like sexual slashers. I don't think he has any like sexual motivation.
Whoa! Because I think it's heavily alluded to.
Okay,
in
you're
part
right.
3
that he rapes
Chris.
But that's also supposed to like they didn't really. I know the actress like didn't want that in there, and
It's in there.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess it is really heavily alluded to. But besides that, I don't know. I kind of just always like think of him as being like traumatized from like his mom and what happened with the camp counselors sleeping. So I feel like he's just has like this huge taboo. But that doesn't, I guess, mean that he wouldn't be interested in sex at all. It just would, I think, make it very off-putting for him. And I do think, obviously, like in later films, it's just kind of like he's sort of a killing machine.
If we're bringing in the next film, right, with the Chris reveal and the rape and whatever, there's also, and we're going to talk about this, of course, when we do 3 next week. Well, actually, it'll probably be next week because we're going to the Halloween convention. Maybe we can pre-record it. We'll see. But also when he reveals himself to her, he pulls up his mask and like smiles at her like he's like, remember me? So that's, I don't know. That Jason is more like devious.
But this Jason,
it's almost like a pervy look.
Yeah.
The way he looks at her.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
So,
the
but
Jason
that ain't
that
this
we get
one.
in this,
Yeah.
is more sheltered and more like childlike, is what I always think of.
Well, the way he reacts to Ginny's psychology.
Yes, exactly.
And the like mommy thing, and he
so
gets on his
sad.
knees and whatever. I know you're
It's
gonna.
actually sad though, like really.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think? Do you think Sandra got felt up by Jason and was walked in on in the act? I never thought about it until this time, but I was like,
yeah,
maybe. And I will say, if Jason had any patience to him, this is another part of his childish behavior. He would have got Jenny in the window.
Yeah.
She was about to crawl out the window. If he would have waited till she was like halfway out and grabbed her, game, set, match. But he breaks through the window right before she starts coming out. But like when she's like halfway out the window, she is screwed.
Yeah, she is.
Like Annie.
Yeah.
In the laundry room in Halloween.
Oh man.
Oh man, you are screwed. Michael does not take advantage of that there, and Jason does not take advantage of it here. So they're like, too easy.
Yeah, they're like harder level.
Yeah, I
want a challenge.
I want a challenge, like two people screwing, and I sabotage them from behind. That's easy prey. He goes for easy prey all the time. He comes up behind a handicapped guy and shoves a friggin' machete into his face. He ties a guy up behind and comes up and slices his throat from behind.
Right.
Crazy Ralph's death, by the way, we didn't even mention, which is absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
Because he throws the freaking thing over a tree somehow. The tree would be 50 feet tall, but somehow he just whops it right over onto Ralph's neck and pulls it back. That scene literally makes no sense. So the tree would have to be cut off right above his head.
He's already holding
from
it behind. And then Crazy Ralph like goes up against it, and then he goes like that. Like he's already got it around.
No.
And then he goes.
No, because you can see it go like this.
Yeah, I know. Like he's got his arms around like this.
No.
Crazy Ralph goes up against it, and then he's like,
no. We have to be here.
Fine, he's like up here.
So he pulls it. It's like up against the tree, and then he just waited for Ralph. His arms are like on the side, and Ralph, please, because he would have already had to have it roped around before Ralph even sat there, and he's just waiting.
Yeah.
He's always going to lean against this tree.
Yeah, he's like, I know him.
I guess it's not impossible. 0.01%.
I know my dad.
I know my dad. Yeah, done for, Dad. I want the house.
No more.
Talk about nepotism.
I want the house.
Paul gets the camp. Jason gets the house.
Jason gets the shack.
Yeah, Jason gets the shack with a toilet that's not even hooked up and no poop in it. Like, what's the point of that toilet?
He doesn't even know what a toilet is.
Yeah.
I don't know why we say that, because it's like he was alive in the world
you
for
think
like
he takes
8
off
to
his
10 years.
You think he takes off his things his
coveralls?
Yeah, his overalls to poop?
I hope so.
You hope so?
But
You think
not.
he's just walking around with poop in him?
Got a diaper.
The things no one talks about in these movies. I'd like to see how he got that bruise on his thumb when he's coming at Vicky.
Yeah.
I'm like, how'd you get that?
Looks like it hurt.
Looks like it hurt. And okay. I am putting this to rest once and for all. I'm telling you outright. Ginny pisses herself.
Yes.
I had this conversation in the last video. People are like, what are you talking about? It's the rat that pisses. 100% not.
No, it's
I
not
am
the rat.
telling you straight up. I paid attention this time. The pee comes from the bottom of the bed.
Yes. And the rat.
She's at the top of the bed up
like
here.
right
The rat's
head.
by her head. And then we cut back to her after the pee's already coming down. The rat's sitting right next to her head, and there is no pee around the rat.
It's not the rat.
It is 100%
There's so
Ginny.
much pee too. Like, why would you even think it would be the rat? Rats don't pee that much. Have you ever been around a rat?
I got so many comments in the comment section when I did that, and they were like, that's the rat that pees.
No, it's her. She's
And then-
scared.
Jason smells the piss.
Yeah.
Right? Because he like turns around. I mean, the guy who's walking around with shit in his pants somehow smells the piss.
He doesn't have shit in his pants, but yeah, he does.
Does he? I think he does. No. But I don't know, man.
He's an animal.
No. I am putting this conversation to bed.
It's not the
Under
rat.
the bed.
Under the bed.
It is
Jenny.
100% Ginny.
Yeah.
And you could be like, I see her pants and they're not wet after. I don't care.
Yeah,
because
that's just a continuity.
that is a continuity error, because outright we see the rat. It's up by her head. There's no way a rat pisses so much that it floods out the bottom of the bed. That's not how a rat. Have you ever seen a rat piss? It's a little puddle like this. It's nothing.
Tiny, yeah.
This is a gallon of
Floods
piss
out.
that's coming out, and we literally see the rat right next to her head. Second after that,
Totally dry.
It's totally dry next to her head.
No pee.
This is done.
Yeah.
It's over. You have lost this round.
Yes.
Moving on. So I had to bring that up.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yes, it's very important. Jenny pulling the child psychology. I mean, this is referenced earlier with the child psychology. Yeah. She's breaking down psychology. I think she's a psychology major. So that all works. I mean, she just kind of takes a shot in the dark, almost literally. Yeah. And it almost works. And then Paul comes in and saves the day. If Paul didn't come, she would have died.
She would have died.
Yep.
But I really love what she does. And I love the, overlay of Mrs. Voorhees' head. Like what Jason's doing and everything. I think all that's really cool.
Betsy Palmer comes back for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only time she comes back in the franchise.
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah, I just think it is like interesting because he's like the way he like moves his head, he's like listening to her and stuff. It's just kind of like it's very childlike.
Yes.
And it does make me sad in a way because I'm like,
yeah,
maybe he wouldn't have been a killer.
Yeah. No, I like it. Yeah. I do like that scene. I'm anyone who questions that scene is just, I don't know. I mean, I get it, but I don't have an issue with it. I think it's a cool scene, and Jenny just outsmarts him.
Yeah.
I do think that Jason's like, if the franchise was being like, continuity accurate, in part 3. His right arm would be completely useless. She completely severs his clavicle, his shoulder, everything is completely sliced through down to here.
Yeah.
She completely embeds this knife, this blade, this machete so deep, his arm would be rendered completely useless. So, but in the opening of 3, he has it out, it's on the ground, and he gets up and walks away, and his arm works. That's fine. His arm would be completely useless. Where is Paul? I've got no clue.
No. He ran off. He felt so guilty.
Yeah, he killed himself. I would say he's just, she's calling out for him because she's just like, where's Paul? Like, I need him. I want him. I know he's alive. Where is he? And he's in another ambulance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any issue there.
Me either.
So,
it's fine.
Yeah. So, Friday the 13th Part 2, a little longer than 13 minutes.
Yep.
But I'm glad. So, I'm very excited to have, to do this, to do the Revisited because of this. Because I did such Ginny piss poor reviews of these before. And it's time we go back and do them for real.
For real.
And this is how we do them for real. This is classic Sinister cinema breaking down the most ridiculous shit that no one has ever considered as a possibility. And we're here to come up with it.
We consider it.
Some of these things I'm sure they have, but I guarantee you 1 or 2 of the things we said tonight has never even been contemplated.
The word cockily.
Cockily is officially
Unmarital
in the books.
And cockily.
Yeah, we'll see what we come up with next time. Anything more?
No.
That's it.
That's it.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we will be at the Halloween convention. Maybe we'll watch 3 this week and review it and get it up before we leave so that we don't miss it, because I am enjoying these, even though this takes our whole damn night. But it was a fun time. Yeah. And always glad to revisit these films, especially the first 8. Always been a massive fan of these, and I look forward to the next. So we'll see you there. And all right, guys.
Bye.